Now the fun part, we get to make some pretty maps here. Make sure you've got the layer styling window turned on. Just in case you don't have that, right click up here and go down to make sure layer styling panel is checked, and it'll pop up and you can anchor it right over on the side here if you'd like to. If it's not anchored, you can pull this out, bring it back in, or anchor it anywhere you'd like that still keeps accessibility on your screen. First things first, let's take a look at some graduated colors. This would be the same as quantities in ArcMap. So let's select a value field. Let's just look at total population that speaks English within each census tract. I'm going to pick the spectral color scheme, and then you notice nothing shows up until we actually classify our data. So I'm going to bring that up to 10 classes here. So now what we're seeing here is the total number of people that don't, or the total number of people. Now what we're seeing here is the total number of people in each census tract that speak English. However, what we're really interested in here is the proportion of people in each census tract that speak English or don't speak English by subtraction, because I think that's much more illuminating. Some census tracts have more people than other census tracts, so to sort of normalize the data so that we can compare one census tract to another, we need to perform a normalization. Now, it's a little bit more complicated in QGIS than it is within ArcMap, where we have the option to do normalization right there on the fly. However, it's not too bad here in QGIS. What we need to do is, rather than selecting a single variable in our value field here, we are going to use this expression dialog, by clicking this little E button here. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete what's in the expression there. And we're going to open up this Fields and Values tab. So you'll see a list of all the fields in the shapefile right now. What we're going to do is we're going to say, double click on this, the language field. And we're going to divide the language field. We only want that once. We're going to divide the language field by the total population in the tract. If you've typed something in wrong, you'll get an error message popped up down here. Like if I put that extra divide sign by accident, it'll say expression is invalid, which is also a nice little bonus of QGIS versus ArcGIS. When we feel good about that, we're going to click OK. Oh wait, nothing changed. What happened? You know what we need to do, right? We need to come in and reclassify. So I'm going to click classify again. And wow, all of a sudden, we get some really interesting patterns popping up. And what we can see here is these are pretty rural, pretty white parts of the state up here, down on the peninsula here. And so what we see is areas that are closer to cities, this is Washington, D.C. here, tend to have a smaller proportion of the population, those areas in red, a smaller proportion of the population that only speak English in their households, which is sort of what we'd expect to see, but really neat to see that difference between total count of people that speak only English and then that normalized data, which really allows us to compare census tract to census tract and makes the patterns just really pop. One thing that I like to do, especially with census data, things with lots and lots of little lines, is either get rid of the stroke or the borders around each of the polygons entirely, or change their color and sort of de-emphasize them so we can really see what's going on, especially in some of these smaller blocks. To do that in QGIS, we click on the symbol, this little arrow next to the symbol button here, and click Configure Symbol. Next, we want to click on this button here, this Simple Fill, And this is where we could really reduce the size of those lines. Ooh, that's really nice. That made a big difference there in our ability to see what's going on, especially in Baltimore here and some other places. I really like that. I'm going to save that. Probably keep that. And if I wanted to, if I were, for example, putting this map on a dark background, having something like, let's imagine, why don't we just bring in a like a Esri dark gray base map behind there. Sometimes you'll find that certain map projections don't allow you to visualize base maps very well. If that is the case, what we need to do is go into the properties of our map document, and we need to use the pseudo Mercator projection. You can do a search for pseudo Mercator. The pseudo Mercator projection that that all the base maps are projected with. This isn't always desirable, but sometimes you just have to do it if you want to have a base map going on. So I'm going to click OK. All right, so now we've got our base map that's showing up. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to turn our colors from black to white. I think that kind of provides a nice little contrast between this and the rest. If we wanted to modify our transparency, we'd go from simple fill up to fill here, and we could modify the transparency of all of our polygons. Kind of a neat look there. We'll do that. And then we click this arrow right here to go back to symbol settings, save our map. If we like what we see here, we could move over to layout view and save a version of the map. That's all for visualization. Thanks for following along, and see you in class on Thursday.